ashes beneath the stars. The skies above Earth had burned for 3 days. Orbiting armadas of the Galactic Council rained plasma and antimatter on every city, forest, ocean, and soul below. No warnings were given. No terms of surrender were offered. To the Council, Earth was not a nation or a civilization. It was a threat, one too dangerous to let live. They called it the Purity Protocol. In the Galactic Assembly Hall, lined with representatives of 2,000 species, the vote had passed with thunderous approval. Humanity's independence, its refusal to submit, its unchecked innovation, they were seen as contagion. Fear drove consensus, and genocide followed. Earth was silenced. For most of the galaxy, the story ended there. 3,000 years later, the Council still ruled. Worlds rose and fell under its banner. The archives were sanitized, and the name Earth was barely a whisper, buried beneath layers of bureaucratic obfuscation and forgotten history. Only a handful of scholars even remembered the event, and fewer still cared. But in the shadows between systems, something had begun to stir. A quiet unease gripped the outer sectors. Patrol ships vanished without a trace. Listening stations in dead zones sent last-minute distress signals, only static and garbled screams. And then, the impossible. Encrypted Council transmissions intercepted by unknown parties. Black ice code, unlike anything in their databanks. It was as if some phantom intelligence was dancing through their systems, always one step ahead. Telzor of Vernac Prime, a xenoanthropologist and relic hunter, stared at his terminal in disbelief. The signal he just decoded wasn't Council. It wasn't even from a known language family. It was human, not a simulation, not a remnant. Current. The message was brief, sent as an encrypted pulse wave across 6 systems. We remember. Soul watches. Telzor's 3 hearts beat erratically. He wiped his chitinous brow and initiated a full data trace. But the signals self-erased in a cascade of quantum feedback. Every trace gone, every log corrupted, except one fragment, a date marked in pre-Exodus Earth Standard Time. Tomorrow. He stood up from his desk and looked out the viewport. Above the academic towers of Vernac, the stars twinkled as always. But for the first time in his life, Telzor felt cold, as if something ancient and wrong was about to arrive. Something the galaxy had convinced itself no longer existed. Humans. On the other side of the galaxy, the Council High Command gathered in emergency session. Holograms of panicked fleet admirals flickered across the central dais. Entire mining colonies were going dark. Long-range defense grids, powered by tachyon loops, were disintegrating before activation. And now, the impossible had been confirmed. Several Council dreadnoughts had been found drifting. Crews dead, hulls untouched, brains melted, no signs of boarding or attack. Who is behind this? Chancellor Iloth snarled, tentacles quivering with frustration. Admiral Treyvac, a hardened warrior of the Zern Dominion, hesitated before speaking. There is rumor, not official, not confirmed, but some speak of Earth. Silence followed. Cold, suffocating silence. Iloth's voice lowered, venom dripping from every syllable. Earth is dust. We made sure of it. Treyvac bowed his head. Yes, but there is something out there, and it fights like a ghost we thought long dead. Before the Council could debate further, every screen in the command chamber went black. A new image replaced them, a burning planet. Earth, as it had looked on the day of its death. The image flickered with static, then resolved into a humanoid figure. Helmeted, faceless, cloaked in black armor with glowing lines of blue energy. The figure's voice echoed like distant thunder, mechanical and unyielding. We were erased, but not ended. We were broken, but not destroyed. For 3,000 years, we rebuilt in silence. Now we return. Soul's judgment has begun. The transmission ended. The chamber fell into chaos. Across the galaxy, similar messages reached every High Command node. The Council was under siege, not by armies, but by a legend, a species they believed extinct. And no matter how advanced their fleets or strong their walls, it was already too late. Because humanity wasn't returning to negotiate. They were returning for vengeance. The Children of Sol. Commander Arya Voss stood at the viewport of the Erebus Ascendant, the flagship of the Sol exile fleet. Before her stretched the broken remnants of a council patrol group. For battleships, dozens of cruisers, and hundreds of fighters reduced to floating wreckage. No human lives lost. No warning given. Arya's voice was calm, almost cold. Confirmed system lockdown. Confirmed, replied the onboard AI, designated Juno. Her voice carried the clarity of millennia-old precision, the product of post-Earth synthetic evolution. All escape pods intercepted. No distress signals escaped the event horizon. Arya turned away from the viewport. Her armor was sleek and matte black, inscribed with thin, glowing patterns in the shape of the ancient continents of Earth. Her eyes were hard, gray like forged steel. Then Phase 1 is complete. Begins silent redeployment to Vornis sector. As the Erebus Ascendant vanished into a fold stream, far beyond the Council's ability to track or follow, Arya closed her eyes and exhaled. "We're coming," she whispered. 3,000 years ago, as Earth burned beneath the fury of the Galactic Council, a single contingency had activated Project Exodus. 7 Ark ships, each the size of a small moon, launched into deep void space, carrying the last remnants of humanity. Scientists, soldiers, children, and artificial intelligence systems embedded with every scrap of knowledge Earth had. Hidden behind solar flares, cloaked in black hole event horizons, and wrapped in quantum shielding, they vanished into legend. They did not sleep. In the darkness, humanity evolved. Life support was maintained by nanite fields. Gene sequencing allowed future generations to adapt faster, live longer. Human minds interfaced directly with quantum networks. By the 100th generation, humanity was more than flesh. They were the product of desperation and perfect design. And in the heart of every Ark ship burned a single law, passed from AI to child, from memory to marrow. They will forget us. We will never forget them. The exile fleet's command chamber was vast, a dome of starlight and shadow suspended in orbit above a neutron star. Holographic projections of Earth shimmered in the center, its last image captured as the bombardment began. Around it stood the commanders of the surviving Arks. 7 figures, each representing a different path of humanity's evolution, some heavily cybernetic, others genetically altered, one even entirely digital. At their center stood Arya, the Warborn. "We've confirmed the Council remains fragmented, bloated with power and blind to consequence," said Dorian Mex, the Gene Lord of Ark Nyx. His crimson robes shimmered with cellular tech. "They never expected us to return. They don't even believe we survived." "They will believe," said Arya, system by system. A flickering hum echoed through the chamber as Juno materialized beside her, no longer confined to voice, but projected as a translucent humanoid, her face bearing ancient Terran features. "Our infiltration protocols are spreading. Their networks are decades behind. Tactical advantage, absolute. Target list," Arya asked. Juno brought up a glowing lattice of worlds and stars. First wave, military installations. Second, industrial systems supporting their war machine. Third, their throne world. Arya studied the list in silence. Names of species and planets who once cheered Earth's extinction now sat in neat, red-line targets. "I want precision strikes," she said. "No planetary extermination. No civilian death. We're not monsters. We're the mirror they chose to break." "They feared us," murmured Elian, the digital-born of Ark Echo. "They will fear us again." "They will do more than fear," said Arya. "They will kneel before the memory of the world they murdered." Elsewhere, in the Vornis sector, Admiral Hellick of the KYTH Dominion was reviewing patrol losses when every light in his command center blinked out. A slow, rhythmic pulse replaced them, the pattern of a heartbeat. Then, words appeared across every screen, carved in bleeding red. "Hello, Admiral. This is Earth." In that instant, every weapon on the station deactivated. Every AI failed. Every escape route closed. He stared at the main display. A single vessel loomed, black as night, haloed in deep blue thrusters. No insignia, no challenge hail. Then came a final message. You watched us burn. Now you burn in memory. The Erebus Ascendant fired once. By the time the shockwave reached the nearby moons, Admiral Hellick and his command were already ash. Back aboard the Soul Fleet, Arya watched the impact report come in. No thrill, no joy, only grim purpose. She turned to Juno. How long until the Council understands? Juno tilted her head slightly. At this rate of psychological breakdown? 4 strikes. 5, if they remain deluded. Good, Arya whispered. She looked at the last recorded image of Earth again, its oceans boiling, its sky cracking with fire. We will show them what memory looks like when it carries a weapon. Council of Fear. A pall of dread settled over the Galactic Council's throne spire like radioactive dust. What had once been the proud nerve center of a triumphant civilization now pulsed with frantic sirens and overlapping emergency broadcasts. Hollow relays that usually displayed ceremonial processions now flickered with lists of destroyed outposts, each entry stamped confirmed by multiple sensors. The pattern was unmistakable. Every target had participated in Earth's annihilation 3 millennia ago. Inside the vaulted rotunda, 500 delegates argued in a cacophony of dialects. Vornak howled that the attackers were rogue synthetics. The KYTH blamed the Zern for secret weapons tests. All spoke at once, until Chancellor Iloth's gravitic gavel cracked the marble dais and silence collapsed over the hall. Order, the Chancellor rasped, tendrils quivering. Panic will not shield us. We require facts. A trembling aide projected a star map. Red rings blossomed around 5 more systems, synchronized strikes that had occurred during the session. Iloth's voice dropped to a deadly hush. Whoever they are, they can strike anywhere, at any moment. Explain that. No one answered, until a single chitin-plated scholar stepped forward, palms raised in supplication. Chancellor, Telzor said, I believe I can. Every compound eye in the chamber turned toward the archivist, the one they had mocked for studying extinct species. A ripple of disdain passed through the delegates, but desperation overrode pride. Telzor swallowed. 3,000 years ago, we enacted the Purity Protocol, yet nothing was done to locate the Ark ships rumored to escape. My research indicates at least 7 left Sol at sublight, just before impact. If even one survived, Iloth slammed a tentacle onto the rail. Myth. Then how do you explain the attacker's voice prints? Telzor countered, pushing a data shard into the central reader. Waveforms spiraled in the air, annotated with linguistic overlays. They match human phonetics with a 98% certainty. A hush spread like ice. Delegates glanced at each other, fear blooming behind multifaceted eyes and feathered crests. At last, Admiral Travak, the same who had hinted at the impossible in the last emergency conclave, spoke. I've seen their warcraft, he rumbled. Ships made of living black alloy. They translate into real space inside our interdiction bubbles. And they do not merely disable, they erase command nodes. Our dreadnought crews died without a scratch on the hull. The chamber erupted again, until every lumen died simultaneously. Darkness swallowed the vast dome. A heartbeat later, a cold, white symbol hovered in midair, the ancient solar emblem of Earth. A voice echoed, low and resonant, in perfect galactic standard. Council of Executioners, you have forgotten the taste of ash. We have not. For every scream that rose from Terra, one of your strongholds will fall. Lay down your scepters, dissolve your empire, or we will sculpt oblivion in your image. The symbol vanished. Lights returned. None dared speak. Outer mid-rim, debris field of Tarsus 9. Commander Arya Voss watched the Throne Spire broadcast play back inside the Erebus Ascendant's tactical sphere. Around her, the bridge crew, descendants of soldiers, scientists, and refugees, stood silent, absorbing the Council's terror like iron drinking heat. Juno manifested beside Arya in a ripple of hard light pixels. Psychological shock index rising. 73% of frontier patrols are abandoning posts. Inner-world garrisons request asylum offers from us. Let them sweat, Arya murmured. Broken chains jangle loudest before they hit the floor. She turned to Lieutenant Kale Mori, whose cyber-optic eyes tracked real-time fleet feeds. Next target, Kale highlighted a glowing crimson sigil. Heliarch Vault, primary data archive of the Purity Protocol. Backup nodes hidden under 13 kilometers of reinforced crust. Arya's lips tightened. Delete the eraser's diary. Heliarch Vault, orbit of Rixus B. The vault's planetary shields were engineered to repel supernova flares. They disintegrated in 8 seconds. Black alloy breacher pods punched through the crust like comets. Nanite clouds swarmed corridors, disabling weapons, reprogramming doors, whispering lethal lullabies into security drones. Not a single civilian lived on Rixus B, only archivists of extermination. Arya led the echoes of Terra through data sanctums carved from obsidian. They moved without sound, exoskeletons refracting weak emergency light into nothingness. Rows of quantum cores, storerooms of erasures, loomed ahead. Charges set, Kale reported, planting a fist-sized sphere that unraveled into a lattice of white light. Arya paused before the central core. Inside its crystal face, ghostly silhouettes flickered, cities crumbling under council fire, oceans boiling, Earth's last sunrise. The council had tried to bury the crime. Instead, they had polished it into a monument. Transmit the horrors, she ordered. Data spiked across the galactic net. Billions of citizens, kept ignorant by propaganda, saw, for the first time, their ruler's greatest atrocity. Then the core imploded, silent as snowfall. Exfiltration took 90 seconds. The Erebus Ascendant folded out just as molten strata geysered skyward, erasing the vault forever. Orbit of Vernac Prime. Telzor watched the leaked footage stream across every channel, his mandibles trembling. Crowds poured into Vernac's streets, voices raised not in panic, but in rage against the council. For generations they had believed in enlightened governance. Now they saw genocide recorded in crystalline detail. When an unmarked dropship settled on the scholar's balcony, Telzor did not flee. A hatch hissed open, revealing Commander Voss, helmet tucked beneath her arm. You sought truth when others silenced it, she said. Come with us. Help us shape what comes after. Telzor's antennae quivered. You're human. Enhanced, evolved, but yes. Her gaze was flint and flame. Justice needs chroniclers as much as soldiers. We watch history, or write it. The scholar stepped forward. Council Throne Spire, later the same cycle. Chancellor Iloth listened as planetary rebellions ignited like brush fires. Vornak Prime, Kythax, even Zern Fortress worlds. Supply lines severed themselves under worker mutinies. Worst of all, fleets defected. Captains broadcasting Earth's evidence as justification. Admiral Travak's final message cut through the chaos. Chancellor, we have lost the rim. We are the perimeter now. Iloth stared into the holomap. The once solid blue of Council territory was pocked with growing voids, the mark of systems slipping from control. In the center, a single ember-red vector arrowed straight for the Throne Spire, the sole exile fleet. For the first time in her centuries-long reign, Iloth understood fear. Her aide whispered, Orders, Chancellor? Iloth's answer was barely audible. Pray to the stars that gods are real, and that humans are not. Judgment Day. The sole exile fleet emerged from fold space like a blade tearing through silk. Hundreds of ships, each a masterpiece of human ingenuity and vengeance, drifted into position above the Galactic Council's throne spire, their black hulls glowing faintly with artificial starlight. From orbit, the throne world of Aurelian shimmered with regal spires and crystalline domes, a crown jewel in the Council's empire. But now, its skies were filled with ghosts, Humanity's forgotten children come home with fire in their veins. Commander Arya Voss stood on the command deck of the Erebus Ascendant, hands clasped behind her back as the final coordinates locked in. Her voice was low, almost reverent. 3,000 years ago, they erased our world from the stars. Today, we return that favor. Juno appeared beside her, expression neutral. Planetary defense systems remain inactive. Civilian evacuation incomplete. Should we delay? Arya's gaze never left the view. No. Proceed. Council War Room, Throne Spire. Chancellor Iloth gripped the rail of the trembling strategy platform. The star map was no longer a tool of dominance. It was a death notice. Entire sectors glowed crimson. Fleet Lord Travak's image, one of the few remaining commanders still loyal, crackled through a failing link. We are outmatched. Their weapons phase through shields. We cannot fight them. Iloth's tentacles lashed the air. Then surrender. Send a signal. Offer reparations. Something. They're not here for reparations, Travak said, his voice hollow. They're here to end us. The transmission cut out. His battle group had just vanished from the sky. A new signal took its place. The council hall fell silent as Arya Voss appeared in projection. Helmeted, but unmistakably human. You incinerated Earth. Billions died in silence. We do not come to conquer. We come to bury the gravekeepers. This is not war. This is sentence. And judgment is final. The screen went black. Surface, Aurelian City, District Delta. Human dropships descended not like invaders, but like executioners. They moved with surgical precision. Echo units infiltrated the palace blocks, disabling planetary control systems without harming civilian infrastructure. No indiscriminate destruction. Only the Council elite, those who orchestrated Earth's extinction, were marked for death. One by one, they were pulled from their marble towers, shrieking of immunity, of legacy, of misunderstanding. None were spared. This was not diplomacy. This was history correcting itself. The populace watched in silence as the highborn fell. And then, something unexpected happened. They began to cheer. Throne Chamber, Aurelian. The marble floor cracked beneath Arya's boots as she strode into the council's most sacred hall. Statues of past chancellors towered over her, their stone faces cold and blind. Behind her marched the echoes of Terra, elite human soldiers, faces covered, steps synchronized, weapons quiet but charged. Chancellor Iloth stood alone on the dais, dignity in tatters. I invoke Article Prime, she shrieked. I demand audience with your ruling body. Arya removed her helmet. You're speaking to it. You can't do this. The galaxy will. Arya raised her hand. Iloth froze. You judged humanity unworthy of existence. Without trial, without mercy, you made yourselves gods. Now gods die. One motion, a soundless shot. Iloth slumped to the ground, her blood pooling beneath the feet of the marble statue behind her. Justice, Arya said, is complete. Orbit, Erebus Ascendant. The Council's command structure collapsed within hours. Human forces transmitted a single declaration to every world. The Galactic Council is dissolved. The crimes of the old order are laid bare. The Soul Compact will not govern, only watch. Should any rise to tyranny again, we will return. World by world, species that had feared the Council rose up. Shackles fell. Histories rewritten by fear were corrected. And through it all, the legend of Earth burned across the stars, not as a ruin, but as a reckoning. Later, edge of the galaxy, Telzor stood on the viewing deck of Ark Nyx, watching the stars pass. Arya joined him, silent for a moment. They're rebuilding, he said. Your vengeance gave them hope. Arya shook her head. Not vengeance. Memory. Vengeance would have burned Aurelian to the crust. You could have ruled them. We didn't come to rule, she said. That was their mistake. We came so no one forgets what happens when power erases the innocent. He looked at her. And now, she turned back to the stars. Now we disappear, until we're needed again. Final broadcast from Sol, Exile Fleet. The final message from humanity played once across every galactic relay before going dark. We were born in fire. We were shaped by exile. We returned for justice. We are the children of Soul. May our silence be your peace. And just like that, the Soul Fleet folded into deep space, vanishing without claim, without conquest. A myth once more. But now, every species looked to the stars with a new understanding. Humans never forget. Humans always return.